We are talking Lady Krampus. This one directed and co-written by Eddie Lengau. Now this is not to be confused with Mother Krampus, another low-budget female festive killer movie. Lady Krampus here. The story here focuses on a group of female offenders. They're doing some kind of community service, and they initially end up in this kind of soup kitchen for the homeless, and they're kind of serving Christmas dinner, etc. Inevitably they end up in going to this kind of this woman's house who for some reason they end up going, I don't really know why. They go to this house to kind of give her some food because she's on her own, but end up going inside her house and staying there for no particular reason. And they are then sort of added to by these other people who turn up, more kind of their friends, their boyfriends, parole worker. All of these people kind of seem to be bundling in this house for no real apparent reason. And this woman doesn't know them. However, the actual the person who lives in this house, this woman, well, she doesn't know any of these people. However, she happens to be a serial killer who dresses up in a kind of like a female version of Michael Myers and essentially kills people off who she deems to be on her naughty list, etc. There's no actual Krampus in this movie, so don't be expecting a kind of a female demon. It is not. It is a slasher film, and even the Christmas thing, I gotta say, seems rather peripheral to me. It's more or less just a female slasher film that is kind of has Christmas in the background and doesn't really feature that much in the actual film, I don't think, to be quite honest. So let's talk about what works and what doesn't. It's a very low budget film, so let's adjust those expectations as with most kind of like low budget indie stuff. That being said, this film has very impressive gore effects. I was so impressed with some of these prosthetics, very realistic wounds. I thought the actual violence here was very well done, looks very real, and at times quite disgusting in a good way, of course. I actually kind of quite like the idea behind a kind of serial killer, this weird cat lady who no one really wants to know, and she's just kind of like stewing in her own madness in this house. It's kind of quite good for a slasher kind of like origin, so to speak, and I actually kind of quite like, even though it looks a little impractical, I've got to say, the actual costume and the kind of the way she comes across is pretty good. Although it's clearly someone else in the costume, because we see legs at some point, they look like a bloke's legs, but anyway. And it's kind of good to have a female slasher. There's been one or two at this point, but you know, it's not the norm, so you know, it's kind of good to have something a little bit different. Our characters are typical kind of stock characters for a slasher film, but I don't feel they did particularly bad in regards to their performances. I thought they were all okay for this kind of role. They do fall into the kind of the cliches. We have a clearly a final girl who you kind of like, okay, she's the final girl, blah blah blah. Although there is kind of maybe another one who kind of you may not see coming, who may or may not survive. But anyway, what doesn't work for me is some of the logic issues for me really bug me in this film. There is no reason why all of these people enter this woman's house. I mean, despite the fact she's a serial killer, even aside from that, why are these people all coming into this woman's house and staying there? I mean, it seems to be in a relative, it's not like out in the middle of nowhere, it seems to be in a kind of quite populated area with other houses and stuff. I don't know why all these people just come in, the boyfriends, the parole worker, come in and stay there. I just don't get it. They're even having sex in someone's in the spare room and stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The ending of this movie as well, it almost feels like it's going to kind of like have this twist, and we're going to find out there was actually something else going along all of the time, because this other character kind of shows up right at the end, but it doesn't. I was like, oh, well, that seems pointless. And it kind of maybe goes a little bit OTT with the killer seemingly to be indestructible. I mean, there's a lot of damage that's taken, and you can argue things like Jason, obviously supernatural, so we can kind of power through it. But when someone is clearly human, and you know, they have an icicle going through their head, but they still manage to survive, and among other wounds as well, it just kind of like is a little bit silly. Like I said, the characters, although I don't think they're badly portrayed, they're very forgettable. There's no real kind of like interesting performances. There's one character, a transvestite, who I guess is, you know, a little bit different from the kind of the normal, I suppose, in these films as well. And they actually do something a little bit more with that character than I was expecting. But other than that, the characters are all very kind of bland and kind of generic. It's a very low budget film. It seems to be treading water a lot. I don't think it knows what to do in some of this, for some of this kind of running time. I maybe felt it would have been better to have this serial killer come out of the house and then go to the community centre and maybe start killing people there, rather than everyone coming into her house, which just seemed to be odd to me. It's a very low budget film. It's obviously going to be, it doesn't really have a lot to do with Christmas, if we're completely honest. There's no demon here, it's just a slasher. And it's a low budget one at that, with some serious story elements that are at fault here. And it just like, it spins its wheels a lot of the time. It's okay though, I've got to say, if you like slasher films, I feel you can do worse than this. I have seen worse slasher films. And if you're feeling festive and you want a slasher, then you may want to pop it in your DVD player. So overall, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.